Hello everyone, welcome to Insights Alley. In this series about startup basics, we will try to understand and learn from insights shared by various phenomenal people around startups, product, growth, sales, strategy, and everything in between. My name is Arun Verma, and let's get started. In today's episode, we will talk to Steli Efti, who is the CEO of Close.io, which is a leading inside sales CRM for SMBs and startups. Steli is considered to be kind of a master when it comes to sales. He has written multiple books on different topics related to sales, and he is also a Y Combinator alumni. We will talk about how should founders do sales in their startup, especially in early stage B2B SaaS startups. And then how should they make further sales related decisions when they are growing. So here is the episode. Hey Steli, welcome to Insights Alley, and thanks a lot for taking out some time for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Steli, would you like to start with telling us your story in brief up to Close.io and what are you doing these days?
Yes, well, I'm going to try to keep it very brief.
Sure.
I'm originally from Greece, born and raised in Germany, dropped out of high school when I was about 18 years old to start my first business and did a few small businesses back in Europe until 13 years ago, I decided to sell everything I had. I bought a one-way ticket to San Francisco and I came over to the US to start my first technology company, my first real startup. And that first company was a spectacular failure, emotionally, financially, spiritually, on all levels. I was bankrupt and done at the end of that. But I learned a lot of lessons that I had to learn the hard way. And then for a period of time, I got involved in a bunch of friends' startups and projects and ideas. And one of them kind of, morphed into what originally was Elastic Sales.
Right.
And the idea was that we would help venture-backed B2B startups to scale up their sales process and to hire lots of salespeople and build massive sales teams. And in the process of doing that for over 200 different clients, 200 different venture-backed startups in Silicon Valley, we had developed an internal piece of software that allowed our salespeople to do their job better. And eventually that little piece of software became, a product that we had launched as a kind of side business called Close.io. And that little side business outgrew the original business, Elastic Sales. We had hit a nerve in the market. People really loved the software. Salespeople really loved the software. And eventually we shut down the services business and we shut down Elastic Sales and kind of pivoted to Close.io, which is an inside sales CRM that helps salespeople close more deals and make more sales. And that's the company I've been running for the past, 5-6 years. We've grown to generate lots and lots of millions in revenue every year. We're a fully remote team of 34 people or so in 12 different countries. And today, that is kind of my main job, but I teach a lot about sales. I help a lot of founders. I'm an investor in a lot of startups. And so in general, I get invited to podcasts like this to both talk about entrepreneurship, but also and especially specifically talk about the sales side of things.
Right. From Elastic Sales to Close.io, how was your experience in kind of transitioning from a service-based venture to a product-based one? Any key learnings around that?
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot, and I don't know if our lessons are necessarily easy to translate to other people that want to do this, because a lot of times services businesses, they decide prior that they want to transition to a product business, and that's a very different transition than ours. We never decided that we wanted to make that transition. We never decided we wanted to get out of the services business. For us, it was a very organic kind of transition. But I will say that if you're running a services business, so the nice thing about the services business is that you can generate cash flow and revenue much faster than in many SaaS companies or software businesses, and that revenue can be a lot higher, a lot faster.
Right.
Then the problem that what then becomes problematic over time is to really scale that revenue by maintaining a high level of quality, right? So as you're hiring more people to deliver these services, it's really hard to keep the original quality intact that you were able to offer yourself. Versus it's the exact reverse in the software space. When you launch a SaaS product, it has a quite a long ramp up time. Like it's very hard to generate 100K in revenue month one. right? As a SaaS business. That's very unusual. But as the months go by and as your revenue compounds, it's actually fairly easy to scale, or much easier to scale than a services business, to many, many millions in revenue. So it's kind of a reverse problem. I think on the software side, you have to have patience in the beginning and know that the revenue might have a slower build-up, right? It might just be 2K in the first month, and then 4 in the next, and then 5, and then 10, and then 15. It might take a long ramp-up time until you generate many hundreds of thousands a month in revenue, versus the services business gets you revenue much faster, much more upfront, but then becomes hard to really scale that up later on.
Makes sense. So let's dive into our topic of today, which is like sales for founders, very early stage startups, and kind of especially B2B SaaS. Okay. So Steli, what should be the basic principles and mental models for startup founders who are more on the lines of product people or technical design people, if they are trying to make a B2B SaaS product? And especially in very early stage, when they are just trying to make the MVP or just going through the customer development process, or try a very initial version of the product.
Yeah. So first of all, I think you need to realize that sales is nothing less and nothing more than result-driven communication, right? Anytime you communicate with a conversion in mind, with an end goal in mind, you're trying to accomplish something by communicating. You're not just conversing, but you're having purpose. Anytime you do that, you're selling in some way, and somebody needs to buy, right? And it doesn't matter if it is trying to hire someone, or trying to get a news outlet to write about you, or if it is trying to get somebody interested in you as a friend, or as an intimate acquaintance, or even a sexual partner, right? Anytime you communicate with other human beings, you're trying to get to an end goal. You have a goal in mind. You're trying to convince them of something or make them do something. You're selling in some way, right? And they are either buying or they're not. So if you understand that, you realize that we all have experience in selling. We might not have formal training. We might have not had the job title of sales executive, but we all know how to sell. We all know how to buy. And so if you take that approach to selling, then it's not a mythical thing. It's not a thing where you go, well, I have no experience in it. I know nothing about it, or I don't like this. I think it's shady. You're doing it and you're participating in it every day in your life. So might as well do it well when you need it, especially in the early days. So that's step one. The step two is, at the end of the day, before making a product, what you're trying to do is you're trying to learn and generate as many insights as possible.
Right, exactly.
So going out there, there's a pyramid of in terms of, or a weighting scale in terms of what is validation, or how strong the validation is that you're getting for your idea or your potential product, right? You could tell your mom about your idea, and your mom could say, I think that's a brilliant idea, my son or my daughter. And then, that's nice, but it's not necessarily... you can't put that on a slide and go and raise 100 million based on that validation. Right? That's going to be hard. So I think when founders go out in the world, or entrepreneurs go out in the world to get validation for their idea, because we want to be right and we want people to tell us that our idea is great, we're too easy to count or to see quote unquote validation when there might be none, right? We might just tell a few people about our idea really passionately, and these people want to be nice, and they look at us with all our passion, and they think, yeah, that's kind of a cool idea. And we go, I've told 10 people, and everybody thinks it's a brilliant idea. Boom, I validated, right? Let's go and build it. What I would encourage you to do is to ramp up the difficulty of validation and get really difficult validation to get, right? So somebody telling you they think your idea is nice, that's something, that's more than nothing, but it's not much. Somebody telling you they would buy this product if it existed, that's much stronger validation than just telling you it's nice. Right. Tell somebody about your idea, they go, oh, that's really nice. And then you go, would you buy it if it existed today? Would you give me your credit card number and start paying, $50 a month to get this?
That's a real validation.
That's real. It's not real, but it's more real. Right? So that is going to be something where a lot of people that told you the idea is nice, they're going to go, well, I don't really know if I need it right now. People are going to be much harder in terms of, them feeling comfortable telling you, yes, I would purchase this, if they don't feel like they would, right? And so that's much better validation. Having people telling you they would purchase, telling you they would buy this if it existed. And then one level above it is people actually give you money for something that doesn't exist yet, right? So you could tell people, would you purchase this if it existed? And they go, absolutely, this solves a big problem for me. And then you go, well, we're starting building it today. We're offering an early, whatever you want to call this, an early access program. So the first 20 people that are going to purchase this product are going to get a lifetime discount of whatever. It's something crazy, 90%. It doesn't really matter, right? It's not about the dollar amount. It's more about the gesture or the strength of the signal. So if you put down $200 right now, you're going to get a lifetime access to the product for free once we launch it 3 months from now, something like that. And by the way, the money is fully, you have a lifetime, money back guarantee. So if at any point you want your $200 back, you can get it at any time. No questions asked. Now, if they say, yes, here are my $200, that's very, very strong validation, right?
Makes sense.
And you should not use up that. People are going to go now, oh, well, but it's unethical. The product doesn't exist. What if it takes longer than 3 months? What if we never finish it? Don't touch the money, right? Put it on an account and don't use it, right? Just use it as validation. Or tell them, if they tell you, I want to wire you that money, say, you know what? We changed our mind. You're such an amazing person. You're going to get lifetime access for free anyways, right? But it's more about the strength of the signal than anything else. And sales, or the philosophy of sales, can help you a lot, making sure you don't build a product just because a bunch of friendly people said, your idea is nice. But you're building a product because there's a real market out there of people that really want to pay you money for it.
Makes sense. So I'll tell you my story also. So from 15 to 17, that's 2015 to 17, just after college. So for 2 years, I was working on my own startup. It was a B2B SaaS product for restaurants, for table management, booking management. So initially what we did was we'll just go to these restaurant managers and decision makers and just show them a very good visual slide and tech kind of that how would the product would work exactly. And also especially like very hone in on to the exact benefits of the product, that value proposition of the product. So that was my initial sales strategy, just to try to gauge their interest, because I have read like for consumer tech products, you just make landing pages and pitch and benefits of the product and just collect emails. So that was my version for doing this for these restaurant managers. But it failed absolutely. So because they were asking, no, just show me something, show me the product, how it looks, how it feels in my laptop. I can't decide shit if I don't see anything. So then what we did was, okay, we made not exactly the product, but made wireframes on Marvel app, and also just put in the logo of the customers and just some fake bookings with fake names also. And then we showed them, then we were just kind of, okay, we were getting some interest. But one thing that we did it wrong, we did not ask for money right up front. We just want, okay, would you be interested in that? Just trying to gauge their interest and just getting feedback. From this example, I wanted to ask, look, how should entrepreneurs make that decision? Okay, should we make the product or some sort of wireframes and all, then showcase and try to sell them? What should be the strategy?
It depends. I don't think that there is one way that fits every model. It also depends on your strength. It depends on your buyer, right? The question really is our customer. What does that customer need to see? How does that customer think? What does that customer need in order to be able to give us the best kind of feedback and insights and information, right? So if I sell to, let's say I sold a tool to designers, right? Making the presentation really visual is probably important, because visual, is the language that they speak, right? And then potentially not just asking them to talk to me about things, but maybe give them a more visual outlet to give feedback, right? So doing wireframe brainstorming sessions, or bringing a piece of paper, showing them some wireframes that are printed, but then like scribbling with them and telling them, how would you change this? What about this is good? What about this is bad? And let them express themselves in a way that they feel comfortable and strong in. Now, if I'm selling to tax accountants, right, using the same approach might not be a good idea because they're just not visual people. They don't care that much, or that doesn't communicate that much. So for them, it might be a lot more about the numbers and the metrics and whatever else, right? So I think you need to just ask yourself, who is my customer and how do they like to purchase and how do they like to communicate and be communicated to? What's the language, the native language that they like to talk to? And part of the language could be that they like to read a lot of stuff, or that they like to visualize, or that they like to brainstorm, or that they whatever it is, right? And then the other side is yourself, right? You need to ask yourself, what are our strengths, right? What are some unique skills that we have that we can use in the early days? So if you have a bunch of people, like if you have somebody like me, right? I am a very experienced salesperson, right? A sales entrepreneur. So I will use my communication, my people skills to set up meetings, to sit down, to build relationships, to talk to people, look them in the eye, to gauge their feedback, their body language, their tonality, to follow up with them, to get a deal done or get some money from them as validation. That's going to be my tools. If you told me, Steli, the best way to validate is you need to do really beautiful wireframes, and now I have to make these wireframes, now you've slowed me down a lot. Right now I'm going to be a really shitty version. It's going to take me way too long. I'm not going to do that good of a job. I'm not going to enjoy that. When I go out, when people give me feedback, it's going to take me forever to actually update or implement that feedback. So now, because this doesn't fit my skill, I've used a way to validate my idea that just makes me slower and worse off. So I would always start with the customer and who they are and what they need, and then look into the team and go, what are our strengths? What's something we can do really well? What's our experience? What is something we're excited about? And I would try to match the founding team and its internal skills with the market and customer we're going after. And that should determine how you go about it.
Makes sense. Let's move a little bit ahead. So this is, I think, a very obvious line of thought, that an approach that like first 10 or 20 customers, you could just go to friends or ex-colleagues, your network, and just try to sell them. And obviously, it's a little bit easy, only given that there is some actual value proposition in your product. But what after that? How should founders do it? How should they approach getting more customers and sell to them after they have exhausted their own network?
Yeah, so I do think that you should start with your network, right? Because you're right. On the one hand, it's easier to sell to these people because you already know them. But on the other hand, it's also at the hardest part in the company's history to sell, which is the part where there's no product and nothing exists, right? So that balances that off a little bit. What I would do is first of all, I would talk to my network, and then I would ask them, don't just get feedback from them as buyers in terms of the product or the product idea. Get feedback from them on how to market and how to sell this product idea, right? So if I talk to somebody, I would go, hey, would you're a CTO, I built this solution for CTOs, it solves this problem and it does it in this way. What do you think? We would brainstorm a little bit about that. Let's say the person says, this is brilliant, this totally solves a problem, I believe in it, I would purchase it, all that good stuff. My next question would be, if you were me, how would you market and sell this? If I want to get to 100 customers, how do I do it? What's the best channels? What are places I need to go to advertise or market? How do I get people's phone numbers or emails? Do I do person-in-person meetings? Do I sell through webinars? Like, what do you think? What are companies? Like, this is the buyer. He or she is buying not just one product, but many products. They know other buyers, they know the market, so they can tell you, oh, everybody in our market, they sell through blah, 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 and you need to be on these sites, and you need to do this way. You need to know that it's going to be really difficult because X, Y, Z. So I'm getting an education on how to sell a market, not just what to build, right?
Makes sense.
And then based on that feedback, again, it's going to be very different channels. But there's an important transition, more important than a specific channel. Everybody needs to sell through cold calling or cold emails. Oh, no, everybody needs to do webinars. Oh, no, everybody needs to do social media ads. Or, oh, no, all that is shit. Google Ads is the way to go. There's not one way to sell every product to everybody in the world, right?
Right.
You will have to discover based on your market what the right channels are. But here's the important thing. In the very beginning, the way you sell and the way you market is probably not going to be scalable, right? You're going to be doing anything and everything possible. You're going to be doing a lot of things that probably only you can do, right?
Right.
Now, the important thing, in the very beginning, that's totally fine, but it's very important for you as you go along to constantly be asking yourself, how can we transition from me doing sales this way or us doing marketing this way to a way that we could teach somebody else to do and they could replicate the result every single month in a predictable fashion, right? So a lot of times when founders tell me, hey, I've sold successfully, we have 100 customers, now we want to start hiring salespeople.
Right.
My first question is always, how have you sold to these 100 customers? Is it in a way that you can truly teach somebody else how to do? Right? And if the answer is no, if the answer is, well, those 100 people were my friends, and I'm going to hire a salesperson, tell them, go to LinkedIn and find people, that's not going to work. Right? Or it's not going to work as well. It has to be something where you're like, well, the first 20 were all my friends, but then I started trying LinkedIn and that didn't work. And then I started experimenting with Google Ads and that kind of didn't work. But then I started doing this thing of going to this specific website and I've been like commenting, being a community member, and there's a lot of leads there. And I think what I'm doing and of how I closed the last 20 customers is something I could teach one other person to do. That's a very different thing, right? So the important thing is really to transition from non-scalable ways, something that you could not really teach somebody else how to do, to scalable ways where you go, well, I did ABC. Anybody else could do ABC, and we should all get the same result. So I can teach 1, 2, or 3 people do the same activity I did, and they should get a similar result, maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more. That's really the crucial thing, that transition. And also using the opportunity to, when you talk to customers, to also learn from them how to sell and how to market, and not just learn from them what to build.
Makes sense. So as you discussed about that transition point, I think like entrepreneurs feel that problem that, okay, now we have kind of scaled to certain point. Now should we focus more on inbound, outbound? How should we think about that? Because both have like pros and cons. Building an inbound engine would like take so much time. So till then, because you want to grow at a certain, let's say week on week, over month over month, right? You have a certain target. So how should one think about inbound, then outbound? In outbound also, should we start doing, let's say, cold calling, as you discussed, also cold emailing, or just we should strive for face-to-face meeting, just going to events or like events, pitch events, something like that. So how to make that decision while on that transition phase? And also, would you like to, for listeners who don't know, in your own words, what do you mean by inbound and outbound?
Yeah, so inbound means the leads come to you, and outbound means you're going to the leads, right? So
perfect.
If I write a blog post on the 10 ways that salespeople can close more deals, and people share that blog content, and at the end of the blog content, there's something that says, sign up here to get more information about, Closer and their product, and somebody signs up there, that's an inbound lead, right? They came to us. We did something. You always have to do something. You don't just sit at home and people start ringing your office home, or knocking on your door, going like, "Oh, randomly felt like knocking this door. Hello." But you have to do something. But you're putting something out there, then the right people respond to it. Right. Versus outbound means I could be sending you a cold email or calling you on your phone. You didn't ask to get called. You don't know who I am or what my company does. You're just working at your office desk and the phone rings, you pick up and I go, hey, I'm Steli. Right. You don't know me, but I'm calling you because I want to pitch you XYZ, right? That's outbound.
Right.
So inbound and outbound, right? Again, the question will always be like, who is your customer and how do they purchase software today? That's one big question. And the other question is, what is our internal expertise, or is there something that we have experience in doing or something that we're particularly strong at? That's always how it would start. Now, some more frameworks when it comes to inbound and outbound. Inbound, let's cover that real quick, and then let's talk about outbound.
Sure.
Inbound, the beauty of inbound is obviously that the quality of leads is usually, if you do it right, it should usually be really good. These are hot leads, people that are seeking to find a solution for the problem, so they found you, right? And your product, your company, right? So that's kind of a nice thing, right? The customer comes to me versus I have to go to the customer. Less effort, better conversations, better conversions. It's kind of that's the dream of every company, is to be 100% inbound, right? You just, you just wait and all the customers come to you every day, right? That's beautiful. Yeah. The thing that's difficult about inbound is that inbound is a lot harder to predict, right? So if you do, let's say you write a lot of blog content, and that's how you get a good amount of inbound leads coming to you every month. you can't necessarily just say, we're going to double the blog content and then get double the leads next month. That's not going to work, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not like a predictable amount of like one lead per blog post kind of a thing. That doesn't exist, right? It might be out of the 400 blog posts that you've written, maybe there's 3 that are generating all your leads, and you don't know how to create these hits blog posts, right? You just have to create more and more blog posts to hit more of these leads. So the beautiful part of inbound is it's all coming to you, and it's really hot, and it's really nice conversations, and nobody's screaming at you and all that. But the negative thing is it takes a really long time to build up, and it's very unpredictable. It's very hard to say next quarter we want to do double the inbound leads in this quarter. It's kind of the type of game where you do more and more and more stuff, and you hope some of this will hit.
Right.
But it might take a really long time. It's a little out of your control. Switching over to outbound, the thing that sucks about outbound is that people did not want to hear from you, right? So you send them cold email, you're interrupting people in their day, and people typically don't love that. Nobody's ever said, I love advertisements. Nobody's ever said, I love being cold called, or nobody ever said, I love getting all these random emails from people trying to sell me something in my inbox that I didn't ask for, right? So people don't necessarily like the experience. And so you're going to get a lot of hate, right? A lot of people are going to be responding with fuck you, spam, blah, 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 or on the phone will hang up on you. They will respond angrily, which is tough to deal with. And the other thing is that you're going to have to deal with much higher volume because you don't know who's going to pick up, let's say cold calling, for example. If I call people, most people will not pick up the phone since we didn't agree on, on talking today. Since I don't know if I have the right phone number and all that, I'm going to have to do a lot more volume to get to a good amount of results, right? So now the thing that sucks about outbound is you have to put in a lot of effort, a lot of activity to get a little bit of a response, and the response that you're getting, a lot of it is really negative, right? You have to do that negativity. So that all sucks about outbound. But the beauty of outbound is that it's incredibly predictable, right? Because if you know, hey, we're doing 100 cold calls, we reach 10 people, out of the 10 people we get, 2 to agree to a demo, and every second person that gets a demo buys. I know the formula, so all I can do now is I can hire more and more people. Every person needs to do 100 calls, and we can scale really beautifully up, right? Because we don't wait for the customers to come to us. We know how to get to the customer, right? And also the other beauty is that we could even cherry pick and say we want to have these 10 massive brands become our customers, because we think if we have their logo on our website, lots of other people want to buy our product. And we don't have to wait and hope that one person in this company will ever read our blog post, which could never happen. No, we can strategically go after these companies and eventually get them to purchase, right? Or a lot of them to purchase. That's a powerful position. You can be active. You don't have to wait for them to find you. You can go and find them and make it happen. That's the beauty of it. So both models have pros and cons. Typically, though, the inbound model can work both for massive deals, right? An enterprise client could find you in an inbound way, right? As well as a small client could find you. But typically, if you're making very little revenue per customer, you're going to have to focus more on an inbound model because it's more economical, right? Writing a lot of blog posts and then waiting for people to come to you is not as expensive as having, tons of salespeople making thousands of calls trying to reach somebody to talk to them, right? It's a lot more expensive. So typically, if there's a division, inbound is more for smaller deals and outbound is more for larger deals, because outbound is much more expensive, much more labor intense. And it's not just any kind of labor. It has to be skilled labor, and that labor has to go through a lot of pain, emotional pain, right? Of getting screamed at and hung up on and all that stuff. So you have to pay them really, really well and compensate them really well. So usually outbound is for larger kind of deals, enterprise level deals and customer bases, and inbound is more for small ones. Now, obviously, you can do both, right? And many businesses do, but if there's a division of how to think about it, if you say we want to sell $1 million deals and we want to sell to Fortune 500 companies, starting to write blog posts and hoping that they will come to you is not going to be a successful strategy, right? That's not going to work that well. Right. Similarly, not always, but in many cases, if you want to sell successfully to SMB, it may or may not be feasible to doing, visiting them at their office, right? Having like a field sales force go out there and visit one-on-one on them. So it depends on how long your sales cycle is, who's buying from you, how much money they pay you. But in general, both inbound and outbound have pros and cons. Oftentimes you will start with inbound, and you would take a very long approach and go, you know what, we're going to invest in this as a marketing channel, and we're going to invest in this for the next 12 to 18 months and see what happens, right? And take a really long approach. And then when it comes to outbound, you're going to look at, can we identify phone numbers, contact details of our buyers? How long does it take for us to reach them? How long does it take for us to sell them? And how much does it take, how much money does it take for us to hire a salesperson to do all these things? And how much money do they pay us in return? Do the economics work, right? If it costs you $100,000 to acquire a customer and the customer is paying you $100 a month, it's never going to work, right? So you just look at some basic math, back off the envelope math, and say, can we afford to do outbound? And if so, how could the math work? And then you try it out and see if it works or not. And based on that, you can scale it.
Makes sense. Steli, you just a little back mentioned that once you are on that transition phase, so you have figured out the kind of the playbook. We have this playbook. You have to do A, B, C, and this is our sales playbook, and we'll reach out to the prospect in this manner, and we can scale that. So let's backtrack that. And what should be the initial strategy? So let's say we have a prospect, and in early stage probably you get only one shot with the prospect at everything, right? So trying to tell them the benefit, trying to do the product demo, also trying to gauge their interest or their willingness to buy, or kind of doing the customer development interview. So what should be the component of a good sales meeting with a prospect for very early stage when you have not figured out the playbook for a sales meeting?
Yeah, so I think that the most important thing is truly to qualify the prospect, right? More important than anything else is to truly understand what is their problem, what is their current situation, how do they make decisions, who are all the stakeholders involved, what is their budget, what is their timeline, right? Truly understand what is other products or ways to solve this problem they're looking into. The first meeting is not about you pitching them and giving them all this information, right? The first meeting is about you truly understanding the customer. Think about the sales process as if you were a doctor, right? And so you're meeting with, let's call them the patient, right? The first thing you want to do is you don't want to think about this. You go to a doctor because you have some kind of an illness or problem, and the first thing the doctor says is, "Hey, hello. Well, let me tell you about all my credentials. I've been a doctor for many years, and here's all my diplomas, and here's all the things I've accomplished. Now let me tell you about all the procedures I like to do. Here's all the procedures, and let me talk to you about the medication I like to prescribe. Here's all the medication that I like to prescribe." After an hour of this, how would you feel? You're like, all right, this was interesting, but can we talk about me? I have a fucking problem. I'm really hurting while I sit here listening to your life story. How is this relevant? I don't need to know all this stuff, right? And even worse, think about a doctor that you say hello to, you walk into the practice. The first thing the doctor says, before you say anything, I know what you need. You need this prescription. Take it 5 times a day. Have a good day. How confident are you going to be in taking this medication? You're like, I didn't even tell you what I have. Right? How did you prescribe me anything? This is how most people's sales experience as a buyer is. Either they meet with a salesperson, the salesperson's like, I'm going to tell you everything about my company, my product, me, and they talk for hours in the hope that the more they talk, the more they're going to convince me that I want to buy whatever the hell it is that they have, which is not true. Or the opposite, where they just start trying to sell me, hey, I have this, and this product, and you should buy. Do you have your credit card ready right now? It's like, wait a second, motherfucker, right? I don't know if I can curse here, but wait a second. I don't want to buy, I don't want to buy this. I don't have this problem. So the best experience with a doctor is a doctor that looks you in the eye, seems calm, seems present, and is interested. Okay, tell me, what is going on? What is the problem that you have? How do you experience it? And it's not like the first sentence you say, they start prescribing the solution. No, you go, oh, whatever, my head hurts. They don't go, oh yeah, of course, operation is needed. We need surgery next week. No, they're like, all right, so tell me a little bit more. Where's the hurt? What's the pain? Describe it. When did it start? What else is going on in your life? Do you have a lot of stress? Have you taken any medication? How does this fit holistically into who you are and what you need? Let's do a few tests. And then eventually, when the doctor really took the time to understand you, if they then say, you know what, I know what you have, and I know how to solve it. Here's what we need to do. You're going to feel really good, right? You're going to believe that this doctor knows what they're talking about and they have a solution. It's the same thing in sales. First, you qualify, you ask questions, you identify, you do some tests, you try to really understand we're building something that's in this space. I want to know a little bit more about you guys and understand if we can provide value to you, if we can help you solve this problem, if you have this problem. And then let's talk about it, not just superficially. Let's go really deep and truly understand, can we help you? Can we build a product that will solve this problem for you in detail, in depth? And once you took the time to ask all the relevant and important questions and to truly understand what the customer situation is and context is, then when you look them in the eye and you go, you know what? I think I got it. I think that we're building a product that's going to solve this problem. We have the perfect solution for you. It doesn't mean that they're going to buy immediately, but the chances of them thinking that you're credible and making that claim is going to be much higher. So first, you qualify, you ask questions, you truly understand, is this a customer we can help? And then selling is not that difficult, right? Selling is not that complicated. If I tell you in great detail, in depth, what my problem is, you then going, well, if I understood you correctly, you have problem X, Y, and Z, and this is all the reasons why you have it, and this is how you need to solve it, the amount of money you have to solve it, the amount of time you have to solve it, and the amount of people will have to get involved to all agree to the solution to solve it. Did I understand you correctly, dear customer, with all these things? If they go yes, well, then it's very easy to pitch them, right? Mm-hmm. All you have to do is look at that and go, well, the solution I've built fits into your budget, fits into your timeline. Here's the 3 reasons why I believe all the stakeholders will say yes to it. And here's why the solution is built in a way that addresses all the main concerns you have and all the main things you're looking for. I think we got a great deal here. I think we can work together. Let's make it happen. Then selling is easy.
Makes sense. When we reach that sort of stage, when we are doing that transaction, generally what happens with product and especially B2B SaaS is, let's say the version that you are currently on, that you have created, and the vision of the product that you're trying to sell on are kind of very far apart, because B2B SaaS takes time the whole development cycle is long. So how should one approach in selling in terms of vision versus reality of the product that is as of now?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. There needs to be a balancing act between selling me the vision, but not too much of it, right? Here's the way I think about this.
Sure.
If it's something that is attainable within weeks, I would talk about it.
Okay.
If it's something you think will take months, I wouldn't.
Okay.
Right? Because if you think this thing will take us 4 months to build, it's probably going to take you 8 to 10 months.
Right. Obviously.
Right. Obviously. So if you think it's going to take 2 weeks, it's going to take you 2 months. Right. So now think about this. If you talk to a customer and they go, well, what we really need is your feature to have these reporting capabilities. And you don't have these reporting capabilities. And you ask the customer, why do you need this specific reporting? How do you do it today? Is this really must have or nice to have? Like you can't just believe the customer. You have to dig to really understand why they are saying this. And if there's workarounds or if there's another way to sell them. But if you truly got to the agreement that they need these features and you don't have them and you think it's going to take you maybe 2 months to build it, it's very dangerous to tell a customer, buy the product today, in 2 months we're going to have this, right? Because then if 2 months turn into 5 or 6 or 7, it's going to create a really toxic relationship.
And the trust factor also goes down.
Yes, because the thing is this, even more important than getting customers is getting successful customers.
Right.
If you sell to 10 customers that are all going to be losing money and hating you, you didn't take a step towards success. You took a step towards your death, because these 10 customers are all going to cancel, all going to hate you, all going to create a lot of noise and distract your entire team and your whole company. But then they're going to go out to the world and tell everybody how shitty your product is that nobody should buy. So now you're creating a brand and a reputation that nobody should be doing business with you. And you just barely started, right? So you need to be careful about these things. My general philosophy is you need to be talking about the value you can give them today. This is what already exists. It's fine to talk about vision. Here's some things that are in the pipeline or big things we have planned for the future. But if the customer that purchased you today, if they get zero value from the purchase today, and if they have to wait for 3 or 4 months until you build X, Y, and Z until they get value, that's a very dangerous proposition, right? In that situation, I'd rather have them put down a deposit that's fully refundable, right? So they can take the money back. So that the relationship starts and they don't have to wait. And you go, hey, put down a deposit. Once we've launched this reporting, you can be a customer. You're going to be the first to get access to it. You're going to get all these benefits and discounts because you put down a deposit right now. It's fully refundable anytime you want it. You want it. But I would have them then start the relationship rather than going buy now and then scream at my engineering and product team, they're going to buy next week. We need to have this feature ASAP. And then the engineering team's like, well, motherfucker, it's going to take months to build. And you're like, but we need it in 3 weeks. Right? And then everybody's scrambling and building a half-assed solution full of bugs. And you're not setting yourself up for failure versus success, and the customer as well. So that's general. It's fine to talk about the future and the vision. But if you think it's going to take months, you need to be really careful about selling somebody on that promise right now.
Makes sense. Let's talk about ideal customer profile, ICP. And one thing I think you feel very passionate about is non-ICP. That would be non-ideal customer profile.
Yes.
So first of all, would you like to tell us more what do you mean by ICP and non-ICP and the nuances around that? When should company think around that? Why is it important?
Yeah, so ICP, ideal customer profile, is an idea that's been around for a long time in marketing and sales, which just means define who is your customer, right? And do it as specifically and as definitively as possible. And being broad is your enemy. So, the more focused it is, the better. You can't just be saying, oh, well, anybody alive on this planet right now is my ideal customer profile, right? That is a really shitty ideal customer profile because it doesn't tell me who to go and look for. It doesn't tell me how to do marketing and selling. I don't know. Everybody's too broad, right? So you want to be specific. There's a lot of literature. There's a lot of blogging. There's a lot of content around in many, many companies on how to define your ideal customer profile, how to do this. There's a lot of good stuff out there online. I find that a lot of times, most companies, they are way too broad with how they define who they want to go after. And so I have coined as a countermeasure, don't just say who you want to sell to, define who you're not going to sell to, who is your non-ideal customer, who's somebody who shouldn't purchase your product, right? So if I've created a medication specifically for men, with heart diseases, then I should say that children that want to purchase this medicine should not be able to purchase it, right? Because it's going to be harmful for them. And I can't just take a lazy approach and go, well, anybody who has money can buy my product, right? I don't care if it's children or not. They went to my website, they said, buy this product, and they bought it. That's not a good idea. In medicine, we understand it because it can have, really fatal, consequences, and it's regulated by the government. Right. And in B2B, same thing. Just because you have a product, it shouldn't be purchased by everybody, right? Who wants to purchase it. You should think about who are people that cannot get value from my product, so they should not buy. And the reason why you should define that prior is that if you don't, as most startups, you're going to be really desperate at times for hitting revenue goals, for hitting certain milestones, for getting numbers up for your next investor meeting or for whatever the hell you're trying to do. And so when you're desperate and you need to hit your numbers and there's a bunch of children with money that want to buy the medicine, you're going to come up with some bullshit story on why they should buy it, right? You're going to be like, it's not that bad. Maybe they're just going to buy it, not look at it. Maybe they're not going to use it. Maybe they're buying it for their dads. I don't know. But you're going to start bullshitting yourself and others. Maybe we should do it. So and then you're going to make really, really fatal mistakes. So in startup speak, that means you are building a solution for small restaurants. You are a team of 4 people that have restaurant experience. You're going out, you're trying to get restaurants to purchase your software. And then for whatever random reason, some VP at some Fortune 500 corporation found your solution and thinks they could use this too internally for their catering services or whatever the hell, right? So they ping you and they go, well, I am, working at IBM and I think maybe we should also use this. That's a terrible idea, right? It's a terrible idea for you to go down that road. To go, well, I didn't go after IBM. IBM came to us. Maybe we should sell to IBM. Maybe we could make a lot of money. Right now we need to hit our numbers. And because you didn't define before that our solution is not for enterprise clients, our team is not experienced in enterprise clients. We don't have the financing to go after enterprise clients. So if enterprise clients come to us, we'll say no. Yeah, we're going to say no to them. Because you didn't define them as non-ideal customers, you're going to just be tempted to say yes. And then what's going to most likely happen is you're going to start having these conversations with them, more sales meetings, more legal meetings. It's going to, the thing that you thought would take easy 4 weeks and a lot of money took you now 18 months and has totally distracted you. And you're not able to deliver the solution they need with their security concerns and legal concerns and all that, because you didn't build something for enterprise, you built something for restaurants. And a lot of startups get distracted easily because they didn't define who their non-ideal customers. So you absolutely have to do that.
Is this ICP and non-ICP just based on that type of segmentation? Okay, we'll sell to enterprise, small SMEs, or startups, or just individual people. Is it that kind of segmentation only, or there is something more to it also?
It can be all kinds of segmentation. So it could be size of corporation, or type of corporation or organization. It could be a country, right? Or region. We cannot sell to companies in Europe because they need GDPR compliant legal shit, and we are not ready for that, right?
Right.
Or it could be, it could have to do with the type of technology stack that the customers. So it's like we want to sell to enterprise clients that also use, Microsoft or open source Linux, or that also use this because they need to use this other piece of technology to make sense to use our piece of technology. Or it could be a cultural thing. We are selling software for employee happiness. So we can only sell to companies that truly care about company culture and employee happiness. So the best way to identify for that is for them to have an HR department that has a head of happiness or culture, or whatever the hell it is, right?
Right.
It can be many, many ways, but you have to segment. You have to have segmentation criteria for what is a good customer and what isn't.
Right. And I think startups should think of ICP and non-ICP from very start, because the whole product is highly influenced by this decision. So makes sense. Steli, recent examples which many entrepreneurs see and face this dilemma is there are some very recent examples of companies and startups that kind of boast about of them being very product-led startups, B2B startups. And they're not boast about not hiring salespeople, and just growing the product with word of mouth and making growth systems around their product for acquisition and retention and everything. So what are your thoughts about this? How should one navigate around this? Okay, I need to scale it with my sales team, SDRs and all that, or I'm product-led. I also don't understand. Every startup should be a product-led startup. What are your thoughts?
I think that a lot of this stuff is bullshit, right? And here's why. There's not one way to succeed, and there's not one way to deliver value on this planet and for customers. There just isn't. It's like saying right now, the only restaurants that are hot are restaurants that are doing vegan food. Hence, all restaurants should be vegan restaurants.
Right.
Nobody would ever make it. Or you know what? A lot of press is around these four-star Michelin restaurants. So everybody that's in the restaurant business now needs to try to aim to be a 4-star Michelin restaurant. No fucking way. Nobody would ever make that claim, because we understand that there's place for many different cuisines, for many different types of food, for many different variations of how that food is prepared and sold and packaged, because there's many different types of customers. And even a single type of customer might have very varying needs in how they want to consume food, right? They don't want to go to a 4-star restaurant for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day of the year. So same thing applies in every business. It drives me crazy to read some of this stuff, because the problem is that young entrepreneurs and young startup teams that don't quite yet are fully in touch with who they are. Like, who are we, right? What are our true strengths? And who is our customer, and how do they like to purchase products, and how do we succeed in it? No, what those young startups do is they don't know, so they look for blog articles on what do successful startups say they do, and it's we have to product-led, no sales, no marketing, just an amazing product, a product that sells itself, and everybody is a product team now, so we need to be a product team.
Right.
I'm not saying product isn't important. Product obviously is the most important, one of the most important things in what you do if you sell product.
Right.
But there's not one way of doing it, right? The biggest SaaS company on this planet, the largest SaaS company on this planet, Salesforce is
Exactly.
not a product company.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Not at fucking all. And it's not a kind of some kind of a random act of luck. There's a reason behind it. They are a marketing and sales company, right? They're
Right.
brilliant at marketing and sales. They're really not that great at product.
Right.
So,
right.
but I'm not saying everybody needs to be a great marketing and sales company and shitty at product. No, product is important. People's expectation of product is rising. But there's going to be a place in the world for companies that are very sales and marketing strong and not that product strong, and companies that are really amazingly product strong and not that marketing and sales strong, and many companies that are going to be good maybe on both ends, right? I think that the overall expectation on all levels is rising, right?
Right.
We all, an average company today needs to be better at sales than the average company 20 years ago. It needs to be better in marketing than the average company was 20 years ago. It needs to be better in product than the average company was 20 years ago. So
Absolutely.
the overall level is going up in expectation, but there's not one way of doing it. Yes, focus on product. But even a lot of these companies that say, we don't have sales teams, some of it is true. Some of it is also just marketing, right? And beyond, right. There's one particular company that says they don't have, we don't hire salespeople, fuck salespeople. They have a whole huge team of salespeople. They just don't call them salespeople. They call them solutions engineers something. Like they give them some bullshit title, and these salespeople are supposed to be on calls with other engineers and ask all the questions a salesperson would ask, and then do the follow-up and project manage the deal. Like they just gave it a different name, right? But at the end result, those are salespeople, right? So you don't believe everything you read. It's not an either or. There's many ways to do this shit.
Makes sense. Talking about scaling sales. So when should founders make the first hire, and how to anticipate for that? And also, should we hire junior person, senior person? That's a very important and I think very strategic and important decision that founders need to think of, anticipate for, and actually do that decision. So what are your views on that?
Yeah, so I've written a whole book on startup sales hiring. And if you're listening to this and you want to have it, just send me an email at steli@close.io and ask for sales hiring book, and I will send it to you.
Awesome.
But the basic premise is very simple. You should start first. You need to sell yourself, right? You need to be a salesperson. Even if you think you're a bad salesperson, be a bad salesperson and do it yourself.
Right.
Once you've had a little bit of success and you think you've done some things that could be repeated by somebody else, could be done by somebody else, you should start hiring and then fit into the role of, salesperson and a little bit of a sales manager. Like you should be managing these people. And your whole goal should be teaching a few other people to do what you have done and see if they can generate the same results, right? That's the experiment. The first people you hire should be junior people. Don't hire senior people. There's many reasons for this. I have a whole book of reasons for it.
Sure.
But let me just tell you that if somebody is very experienced in sales and they're really good, you should not be able to hire them. It should be impossible for you to hire them. People that are great at sales and have been in sales for a long time, they're making millions. They're making a ton of money. They're not looking for jobs, right? They're not looking to come and work for a startup with no money, no customers, no proven track record. That just doesn't happen, right? Now, if that person is your dad or your brother or sister or somebody, if you have some kind of a unique relationship, maybe. But if you're like, we need to hire a salesperson, and it's like, there's this person that's been in sales for 35 years, has all these industry contacts, this incredible person, and that person is currently looking for a job and it's going to come and wants to work for you. You should run. That person's going to waste your time, waste your money, and give you terrible ideas. They're not good. Good salespeople that are in sales for a long time are almost impossible to hire, right? You need to already be doing great. So don't go for that. A lot of people want to go for that. Don't go for that. Hire some junior people that you could teach. All you're trying to do is you hire people that have a high startup IQ, very entrepreneurial, and that have like a high kind of the sales DNA. They're great communicators. They are competitive. They're all for it. Try to teach them how to do it. See if they can replicate the results. Once you get a few people to do what you're doing, and they're doing an okay job, they don't have to do a great job, just an okay job, then it's time to hire a junior sales manager, not a senior one. A junior sales manager that can now come in, and you've built a little team, 3, 4, 5 salespeople, and they're doing some selling, right? And they're having some success. It's not amazing, it's not perfect, but it's something. They can come in and take over that team and improve and build on it, right? And ideally, you want to hire somebody that 2 years ago was a junior salesperson, then grew into a sales manager position. So somebody that has seen your current situation a year or two ago, right? And has outgrown that. So they come, and it's almost like hiring somebody from the future. They come in and they go, oh, I recognize this. I've been in this situation 2 years ago. Here's what we need to do. Stop doing this, do more of that. We need to switch this. We need to hire more people there. They come in and they have really great answers and solutions, and they take what you have and they build on it successfully. That's amazing. And then once you've done that, and now the team is 10, 20, 30, 40 people, eventually it's important to hire a very senior sales manager. But these senior sales managers, these VPs of sales and stuff, they come in, their expertise is now in, let's build a compensation structure and a commission structure, build a training plan. Let's build a roadmap on how to open offices in 70 different locations and how to groom a coaching and a leadership program within our sales team. They're really good at these things. They're not good at the day one call customers and try to figure out what we're selling. They're not good at that. They haven't done that in 40 years. They don't know how to do that. So you want to make sure to hire the right person at the right time. You start with junior sales reps and you coach them. Then you bring in a junior sales manager and have them take over your team and improve on it. And eventually you hire a senior sales manager.
Makes sense. Have you seen any exception to this? So let's say if the product is kind of an enterprise product, we are trying to sell into, let's say, Walmart or Walgreens, Amazon. Could that thing change, or still it doesn't make sense to hire a senior person and just start with junior and try to make your playbook?
I would still stick with my playbook. I mean, there's a million exceptions to everything I said. I can find your company that did it differently. Right. And but then again, you could find me any expert, no matter how successful they are, no matter how amazing they are, and I could find you examples of people that have done it differently than what they said you should do. Right. That's the beauty and the curse of this. Right. That's not one way of doing it. But I would say in general, 99% of the time, it's the same thing. Now, let's say I want to sell to massive organizations and I hire some junior people. I would not expect these junior people to close deals for me.
Oh, right. That makes sense.
What I would expect them to do is the 80% of the work, which is to find the right lead, send an email, make them respond and say they want to get a demo, schedule the demo, and then I would join the demo call. Right. So now they're doing the prospecting part. They're not doing the closing part. And then eventually, as they've done prospecting enough, there's one of these people that's so good on the prospecting that you believe this person could probably also close a deal. So you just let them not just prospect, but do the demo, but not the closing, just the first demo. And they now, So you let them take over more and more parts. But in the beginning, you would not just hire a bunch of junior people and go out there and try to sell the CEOs of massive conglomerate organizations. No, that's still going to be your job in the beginning, but they can do the 80% of work that needs to happen before that first meeting.
Makes sense. Anyways, so any advice would you like to give founders when they are trying to sell in general? You see people doing anything very wrong, or you hope people do more of, even founders or initial sales teams? Any final advice?
Yes, I'll give you the highest ROI advice I have, is measured based on the thousands of emails I've gotten up until this point of people telling me very specifically how much money they made because they follow this advice. It's my follow-up advice, right? I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions by now made by just following this very simple advice. Showing up is easy. Lots of companies will show up and compete with you. Make a call, send an email. They're gonna the showing up of sales part is very competitive and busy. It's the follow-up and follow-through where nobody competes with you. It's where it gets very quiet and where fortunes are being made. My biggest advice to you is when you have a first initial strong conversation, interest, you meet somebody, they're interested, or you send an email, they send back an email telling you that they're interested, whatever it is, the first connection happens. If they go quiet, you ping them again and they don't respond, or you call them, they don't pick up, or they don't show up to a demo or something, follow up a lot more aggressively than you would be comfortable with. I have a simple follow-up philosophy, which is follow up forever until you get a result. Yes is good, no is good. Maybe is where startups go to die. And if you just follow up more than you're comfortable with, magic is going to happen. Magical things are going to happen for you. I bring up this story all the time where I follow up with a billionaire 48 times.
Right. I've listened to your podcast.
And then he responded going, thank you for being so persistent. We had a crisis overseas. I was traveling. I'm back now. Can we meet tomorrow at 1 p.m.? I have so many stories of this stuff. And I have a whole book, The Follow-Up Formula. Again, if you want to have a copy of it for free, just send me an email, Steli, Steli, at close.io. I'll send you a copy for free. But the basic thing is, whatever the amount of follow-up is that you're doing today and you're comfortable with, multiply that by 2 moving forward, and I guarantee you're going to close deals that you would have lost in the past. You will hire people that would never come on board. You will get press that you would have never gotten. You're going to accomplish things nobody else is accomplishing because you're doing a simple thing that nobody else wants to, just to follow up more, be more persistent than the next guy.
Makes sense. Awesome. Any resource you'd suggest to people apart from your own awesome content? And please tell us more about your content also. You have.
Yeah, so I mentioned 2 books that I'm ready to send to people, but I have I think 11 books by now, and email templates and sales cold calling scripts and all kinds of material. If you want to have everything I have a content library that with one link that you can download all this stuff for free. Just send me an email, Steli@close.io, right, bundle motherfucker, and I'll send you the stuff back.
Awesome.
I have a podcast for people that enjoy podcasts. If you go to thestartupchat.com, you'll find it. It's with a good friend of mine, Heaton Shah, who's a brilliant marketer and SaaS CEO. So we do a podcast twice a week for 20 minutes where we talk about highly practical and tactical stuff on how to build a business, and lots of people are listening to that. And then finally, if you are in the beginning of your sales journey, you want more content on this, you can always go to blog.close, like closing a deal or closing a door, blog.close.io. That's where most of my content is being published. Once or twice a week, we publish new stuff on there. So check that out.
Right. And on your YouTube channel also, close.io YouTube channel, that's also great.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So Steli, thank you so much for all these insights. It was a pleasure talking to you and having you on the show.
Hey, thank you so much for inviting me. It was a fun little ride.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's it, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Show notes would be available in the link below, or you can just go to insightsalley.com/notes. Please rate, review, subscribe in whichever app you are listening to this episode. And most importantly, give feedback in comments, reviews, or you can just email me at arun@insightsalley.com. You can also follow and connect with me on Instagram, Twitter, etc. My handle everywhere is ARUN11192. And remember, always be learning. Bye.